What's up, beautiful people? It's your girl, Leanne. I'm taking music into the equation right now just because Zoom is not that good with hearing that sound every time I've been doing it. And people are really enjoying these podcasts. And hopefully more viewers will have a chance to always come back and to rewatch this. We have Doug Smith from Douglas College on the other side of the camera today with me. How you doing, Doug?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much, Leanne. Hope you're doing well.
Well, it's Thanksgiving weekend. We also have a magical portal of 10-10-10. That just means anything that has numerology with more than one number in alignment, it just brings more power to the good or the bad. So hopefully you guys are all having good thoughts. And if you are open to higher dimensions of thinking, it's a great day to clear, to express, to get open, and to love more. You know, there's archangels that are in alignment with this. If you're open to angel wisdom, to give you guidance from your higher self, to reconnect to your higher self. And music is a wonderful portal, you know, friends, that can help us develop more of our feeling place, expansion, and overcoming the mind in many aspects, whether it's through listening, playing, performing, creating, and editing. And these are a couple of little ideas I had to share with this amazing teacher that I personally had the chance to sit in a classroom with at Douglas College. And this is our second podcast from Music Friends. Doug, why don't you just give us a little updates of what's going on with your life with music, the changes with COVID. I guess you're teaching again in the school. You have live students again. Give us all your updates and where your music is on YouTube too. Tell us all about all those things.
Well, yeah, COVID's a big one because obviously things changed a lot in 2020, and our whole college, in fact, I think all the colleges in the province, if not the country, were shut down, and we were doing everything remotely, which was a real undertaking, a real shock in and of itself. But as you say, now we're back live in class with real live people rather than electronic images. And it was a bit daunting at first. It was a bit scary to go back. It was kind of like, gee, well, I remember how to do this. But then, you know, it's kind of like walking. You just sort of, or riding a bike, you get on and you get used to it again. So, and it's actually really, really wonderful. I didn't mind teaching remotely. There were certain things about that, but being back live and interacting with people and having that real human connection is really quite something else that can't ever be replaced. So I'm quite happy about that. So yeah, it's a very interesting life. Music, well, I'm always doing music. I'm always writing music. I consider myself a composer kind of primarily. So I'm always working on something new. I've usually got about 10 or 12 unfinished pieces that I'm working on, and not always diligently. Some I'll leave for months and years even, and then I'll come back to, but there's always activity going on. And lastly, the last year and a half, I think because of COVID largely and dealing with a lot of technology, I've started developing or making videos and using YouTube as a platform to communicate. It's not exactly a, well, it's a channel which reflects me, I will say that. So I like to.
Well, you're growing, right? Like for me, I just like, I want to reflect because the thing I love about podcasts is that we get to bounce, right? I'm also a life path 8. So I've always been a weaver. Like you see how 8s, even in infinity, they're always weaving, either they're rising energy or they're weaving energy. And I've been, you know, what I've learned about myself, and hopefully that this can be a music reflection to people, is a lot of people give up on music because they've been told too much that there's not enough money in it. And those issues have to change here, because anybody who's able to achieve what they want or really love it, they have to put all their energy into it, or they have to put a lot of focus into it. And then they have to grow in that birthing and that transformation process. So myself, you know, like my inner child was like, I always wanted to do music. And then there was all these other arts. So where you are with YouTube in reflection, you know, myself connecting with you is that, yeah, for the last decade, as a single mom, I was able to hold space to put on a lot of shows. So I've met with a lot of performers, or I have friends in the network that have up to 500,000 followers after starting with 1,000, right? So my whole goal in having a positive reflection every day is first bringing that energy into myself, knowing that media is a really great tool that helps us serve the music community. And we need sometimes even to talk about it so that we continue to grow and support each other. And then to reflect it, because every type of music that's out there needs a promotion. It needs an ability to be seen. It needs somebody to be saying something about it so somebody can hear it or find it. So that's another reason why I do podcasting, is because the same thing that I have is like, I have such a passion for something that I know within me from the primal connection to sound that always calls me. That started with meditation, reminding me as a child, you know, music was, it was what it was, whether my parents were playing music or my grandmother was playing a piano or my parents were dancing to music, you know, and putting a lot of emphasis on music itself is becoming it. Like that first thing I learned the first day when I walked into your class is like, well, let's become music. So are we afraid to expand more, or are we not desiring more? That's the only reason why I feel anything is in the place that it is that through thought process, you know, maybe you have a simple desire, and that's why Doug Smith stays simple in that way, you know. But I really feel that you're an amazing artist, first of all. And I always like jumping back to the people that helped to root me into expanding, you know, to talk a little bit more about, you know, what are the new pieces that you're doing, and like, where are they coming from? And, you know, what's starting this for you to expand? Is it a retirement thing, you think, like later on, now that we have all had this, well, where's the world right now? Are we all going to still be together? And is there going to be a different wave of this COVID, or is this going to be another strain? You know what I mean? Like, how are you implementing music to transform more? And talk about like where this music is coming from. What are the new pieces all about?
Well, that's a really big that's a really big throw, Leanne. I go back to I think the first sentence you said there is talking about music, and you were talking about meditation. And I was thinking about this last night and this morning, and to me, is music not a meditation in and of itself? Is it not a way of life rather than a thing which we strive for, try to capture? So what I try to do with myself is that I try to make it a part of my life that I live literally. And at this point in my life, it's Thanksgiving, and it's a good day to be giving thanks every day. Yeah, I'm getting a bit older. I'm thinking about retirement. I've worked a lot through my life to get to a point where I can do certain things that I like to do, and it's been a struggle. But like you say, it's a process. It's a thing we have to go through mentally, and it helps us grow. Right now, I'm for many years, can I just wander around here?
You can wander as much as you want. That's what it's for. I'm holding space. I want to grow with you.
I
I want to know
remember
you.
I remember when MTV came on the air back in the early 80s, maybe it was the late 70s. And the popular music industry sort of changed. It went all to video, and everything had to have a video. And now music, which previously in my existence was kind of an independent object, a sound object, has now been linked with visuals, and this whole thing expanded. And I always had a bit of a problem with that, because to me, it seemed like the videos were trying to dictate what the music was all about. And I always liked the opposite effect. I always liked the idea that why not have some visual music? Like, I like music first, and music is what attracts me. And if I want to accompany it with visuals, music itself is abstract, and it's not solid. It's not something you can, grab and hold on to. It's constantly evolving and changing. And to me, the idea of a story or a narrative or specific images aren't nearly as important as the sort of evolutionary abstract thinking of the music itself. And so I've been trying to make visuals which are not primarily, I'm going to watch this. It's more like I'm going to listen to these visuals, right? So that the music is the main vehicle, and then the visuals just sort of accompaniment, and enhance it on that. And that's kind of an interesting thing, because what does music look like? Well, in my mind, it looks very abstract. It looks like a lot of shapes. It looks like a lot of things and ideas morphing from place to place. So I've never been much of a visual artist, but having computers and software and allow me to manipulate images allows me to do visual things I'd never been able to do earlier in my life. So for me, some things are coming together in a really lovely way. But it's also allowing me to re-examine my relationship with the actual sounds themselves. And, you know, as a musician, those are really the fundamental things. Those are the vibrations of the universe. And they're the vibrations of music. And we choose and select those vibrations. What they mean for us as individuals, those are all the journeys we have to go through. You know what you were saying before, yeah, music, we need to promote music, we need to get it out there, we need to let people hear it and experience these things together. And you're absolutely right. And you are right, there's not a lot of money in music, or there's not a lot of money that people are willing to part in music. It's one of those things which people rarely don't consider, and yet could not live their life without this. It's like if you removed all music and art from your life, oh my goodness, what a dull, gray world we would live in without much color or joy. And so, you know, it's important to keep our souls alive, just as having bread and carrots is to keep our bodies alive, you know?
So good. Love it. Well, as I was hearing that too, I mean, I come back to two things that I'm doing with music right now, reflecting you. And I'm really happy that you're allowing yourself to pour it out, because you have a lot of students that really appreciate what they grow with you. And then they're able to see your individuality, you know, and then now I need to look at the new pieces that you have up so that I can feel when I'm looking at the art that it's only an enhancement of the music. So that would be the perception, is whether or not it worked. You know, when I look at it, I'm like, am I more distracted by the images, or am I on a journey, or am I really feeling the music? Which is very important. Yesterday I was watching a movie about that, and the whole musical was wrapped around things that we learned in your class. And that movie just really made me happy, because they took the piano and they added what do you call it, like nuts and bolts in it, and they changed the whole sounds.
Oh, prepared piano, yeah.
Yeah, so and it was interesting because all these students in this movie, it's on Netflix too, so I just might as well let you know what that movie's called. Very, you know, for you being a teacher, you might appreciate it, but it was high strung free dance. It's just a dance competition, but there's even artists, and there's a love story entwined with a musician who plays classical piano. And there's a lot of love connected to how it's helping older people who were artists, or it's helping other teachers of dance. And like all of the hardships that come through in that storyline were about, like, you know, this is what it's like to be the perfect dancer, or this is what it's like to be the musician, and who gets this gig and who doesn't, right? A big part of why I do this podcast is because being a single mom and having a strong will, and then having an opportunity to raise two sons that turned out to be doing their bachelor's in music, having my own personal dream in music. So I've been vibrating this vibe, you know, and then I attract these wonderful entities into my life that turn out to be my greatest teachers, and now are executing so much of their power to become the best possible version musician that they are. Other than being a human, they're doing that too. So why shouldn't I share that? You know, and why shouldn't I expand that? And why shouldn't I allow the people and musicians to build that platform, which I'm doing step by step? Because now the dream is being lived. Everything I was thinking, I have the ability now to show up
Mhm.
and to have great people like you to say, hey, Doug, listen, I need help in this area. Once my stage and my platform is ready, I'll be like, Doug, we need this help, or we need this, whatever it is. So we all tie into a great connection. The more important thing is, how do we want to expand? Right? I keep showing up. I wrote 30 songs this month. I know where I'm weak, but with whatever time I had, I found that let go, and I found that acceptance, and I started to float with a similarity with love or with life, and then just expand it. But the key is, we were talking about meditation, is I'm doing these chakra breathing meditations. So I breathe into each chakra, I reflect each chakra with a primal sound of do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, right? But they all have different aspects in the finer body.
Mhm.
And so as I'm doing these finer breathing and lower sounds, like the Buddhist monks, they're like when they do their ohms, it's just like do, they'll do their om down there and then do or something high, right? So breathing with that now. So I've been doing that, like on my 6th day of doing that. And the music is even better.
Mhm.
That's flowing through me because the mind gets out of the way.
Mhm.
And that voice that I know, that's the mind that may say, oh, don't sing the song this way, or don't do this. I come more into flow states. I flow more and I expand. And I'm like, I accept my piece of art. I can go back, I can edit it, I can expand it, I can do whatever I want. And so I thought I'd share that here and now too, knowing that you're going into YouTube and you're showing up with all of your master skills. You may not have that mastery, but now you're forced into YouTube through evolution, through expansion. And it's just, what are your methods to expand?
Uh, well, challenge is always one good method. For me to have an idea that I'm not sure if I can accomplish. In other words, it's set out on a journey with a new goal, a new set of discoveries, and whether one, quote, succeeds or fails, unquote, is a very secondary kind of thing related to the adventure itself. The adventure will probably fail in many respects, but the failure always brings knowledge and growth and learning, which then allows you to apply those things which you do continue on that journey. And I just wanted to say, your sons are, fabulous kids, and I love their attitude and the way they're going. And I've known them a little bit for a couple of years now and seen them grow. And it's again, it's just really fantastic to see that. And it's not even a matter of measuring, you've done X and Y and Z up to this level. It's a total sort of growth, and it's far more about attitude and everything than anything. And I think that is how you grow through those. Yeah, and it's absolutely true. I wanted to, when you were talking about your children, one thing that always occurs to me is this: it's an old saying, maybe a bit sexist now, but it says the child is father to the man. Meaning that, we can grow up and have children, but we never actually grow up until we have children. And it's those children which make us adult, so the thing that we learn from the little ones, which is the deepest and most profound lessons. And I think this is where we learn many of our lessons in life, and very much so in art. You talked a little bit about my position, and yeah, I'm a college music professor, and a very privileged position. I'm very, very honored and proud to be in a position like this. One thing it allows me to do is not be a professional composer. So if that were my path in life, I would have to produce. I would have to produce on demand, on the schedule. I would have to produce things which weren't necessarily my most, creative side, but things which are, serving another purpose, whether it's a film or a play or a symphony or whatever happens to be. And that's a wonderful thing. I know many people that do that, and I have great admiration for them. That's a very, very hard job. I always kind of like the idea of, well, I think I can teach fairly well and I enjoy teaching, and that actually feeds me. I think this is the route I would like to go. And what that actually does is it allows me to explore what I want to do as a creative artist without having that economic hardship. So I, can feed myself through teaching, but the creative side of things, again, is going to be up to me to go in any direction I want, whether people like it, whether people don't like it, whether I like it or not. It might be a necessary thing for me to be able to expand. And again, those things just give you a broader context in which to be an artist ultimately, or any creative person, or any human person for that matter.
I see expansion though. Let's talk about expansion because, okay, so what came back to me when I put that movie on last night, I wasn't planning it, okay?
Mhm.
And I just love how this role, like I love how Source just rolls through. Obviously, I put a lot of focus on certain things like dance or music, or things that are aligned in the arts because I'm an artist, or I like to surround myself with positive energy or striving energy. And what I noticed I'm putting on productions for so many years, because I've been either on a runway or helping musicians or helping fashion or whatever I've been doing outside of now finding that place that I've been writing music for my whole life, but now knowing some things about theory, knowing where I need to do more homework, knowing that I need to get on my piano more, blah, 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 blah. But fine tuning it is like, where am I the strongest? And then what did these productions bring out? So let's talk a little bit about expansion, because when you teach a class, you have this expectation that has to be done by this certain amount of time and being accountable to that structure and system. And you know that that brings on a certain amount of fire and it ignites you to get that done. And because of your personality, you arrive and you make it flow and you make that work. And then you repeat, right? So the same thing with production is that, like, if you look at the lady that does the ballerina lift leg and she's dancing while that music pianist is playing, and they have to be prepared in their mastery in order to make you feel that feeling. Production has a whole other aspect, even like teaching does, but it's the accountability and the expansion that happens that is uniquely really important to expose yourself to in practice, so that when you come back, you can gravitate to wanting to duplicate that again in a way, in a form, but it expands your openness too, even as a writer or as a feeling. Because like now it's even like, it's for me, it's love. And like, I'm becoming love. And so when I'm becoming love, I'm like, well, that was my mind thinking something that could be preventing that flow.
Mhm.
Or that could be an old pattern in my mind that's preventing flow and love to become more predominant in my day.
Mhm.
Right? So where am I putting my attention, or where am I putting myself energetically to really express the inner feelings that I'm getting about what I am from within too? So I get why you do music the way you do is because you've been spending so much time in it that you're taking that core of connection to music and honoring it like the soul in a way of expressing what it would be like to feel just that, and like less imagery. And I feel like this is what I'm learning. I'm relearning this from you. So
Yeah, well, I think it goes back to, I think, something we talked about the first time, and that is embodiment. When you take something on and you train your body to do it, you're no longer doing some external thing. You're doing the thing itself. Maybe it's easier to understand in terms of, say, athletics. So if you want to be a gold medal sprinter, you got to be out in the track every day, doing hundreds and hundreds of times and doing little exercises, trying to just jump off the block immediately. And you just do this until you train yourself, until it is what you do and it's not a task that you do. And I guess this is a matter of our own minds. Like, we're often our own worst enemy. Like, when you say we want to do this, when we have problems, it's almost always roadblocks we put in front of ourselves,
Yeah.
right? And these restrictions that we tell ourselves, partly because of fear of making mistakes or doing something wrong. And those kind of fears are instilled with us from, I think, very early ages. And, no one wants to be wrong, but those are the essential growth things, I think. So when you talk about that expansion, I think we need to think about we all we live in kind of invisible cages that we've built for ourselves. And we need to know why or how we built these cages, which doors we can open, because we are limited by the physical world. We are limited by our lifespan, by time, and by many limiting factors. But most of those can be overcome if we can overcome it within ourselves, within our own spirit, our mind. And so I think the idea of expansion is really almost more an idea of eliminating our own barriers that we set for ourselves. That expansion ultimately will allow you to see that there is no difference between music and art and love. It's all energy, it's all information, it's all things which can be sort of contained and directed in a certain flow. So that's something I keep coming back to, because if I think about my, quote, mistakes, unquote, in life, and there have been many of them, it's largely being unaware of learning from them that has made those things happen, or has prohibited me from growing, right? And so I think it's that little key that allows you to grow, and then the expansion is really limitless, right? Because virtually everything is connected on some level, and we only have to see it, right? And to see it is often a matter of wiping the things away from our eyes that we've put there a lot. So it's kind of how I feel that. I'm not